to look at 6 albums that I missed over the last few months, all voted on by my patrons, and as a spoiler, they chose decent albums. They don't want to see me suffer this time. Here's How Did I Miss This for 4th quarter 2020. I asked my patrons for suggestions and had my voting tier patrons decide on what to cover. If you'd like a say in upcoming videos like this and get to see videos early, please consider supporting Rocked on Patreon. $2 a month goes a long way to help the channel. Up first, the return of AC/DC with Power Up. Of all the wild things we could have experienced in 2020, one thing I did not see coming is AC/DC burying the hatchet, getting back together, and releasing a new album. Health problems, inner turmoil, all these things were worked through to bring us Power Up, AC/DC's 16th studio album that marks the return of Brian Johnson, Phil Rudd, and Cliff Williams. And on top of that, it's the first AC/DC album since Malcolm Young passed. Power Up serves as a tribute to the man. At 12 songs across 41 minutes, Power Up is absolutely an AC/DC album. And this time, I can use that description as a positive. I'm not going to stand here and say this is one of the best albums AC/DC ever put out, but honestly, it's fine. It's totally fine. It's a step up from Rock or Bust several years back. I do think everyone got a little too excited about this one because it's a makeshift reunion for the band and a tribute to Malcolm, but it still works. The best single that is still getting radio play as of writing this is Shot in the Dark, and this song truly is a perfect example of the rest of the album, and is exactly what you would expect from AC/DC. The band didn't reinvent the wheel, but you could tell they had fun on this one. Johnson sounds fine, if a bit aged for obvious reasons, and the guitars, while not killer, are still solid. Other tracks of note are Witch's Spell, which has a great tone, and the rhythm is a slow groove which suits the band at this point, and the album opener Realize, which has a bit more energy and definitely succeeds in reintroducing everyone to a band that classic rock fans still love decades later. It's a very similar sounding album, at times a bit watered down, but it's also harmless. Power Up is an album from a band far past their prime, but it still delivers exactly what AC/DC fans would want. It's a similar sounding album, but the music overall gives much more than releases roughly since the year 2000. Brian Johnson is more than serviceable on this, and I think that as a tribute album to Malcolm Young, it's fine. I would rather have AC/DC get together and have fun on an album like this, where they can put differences aside, than leave things broken down. Overall, Power Up is nothing more than you would expect on a good AC/DC album in style or tone, while still satisfying fans of the band from decades past. Nothing close to changing anything up, and many songs sound almost identical, but I can't help but smile a bit when hearing the band get back together and lay out some stadium rock riffs. Up next is the supergroup Killer Be Killed with the sophomore album Reluctant Hero. This is where the heavy superpowers combine to make something special in a year that allowed musicians to work on creative projects while everyone wasn't able to tour. Featuring members of Mastodon, The Dillinger Escape Plan, and even Max Cavalera of Sepultura legend, Killer Be Killed's second album, Reluctant Hero, is every bit as fierce, upfront, and loud as you can imagine from those names I just listed off. At 11 songs across 47 minutes, Killer Be Killed is vocally vicious. That is the best way to describe this project as well as most of the album. Max, Troy, Greg, they all contribute with Dovahkiin-style shouting and growls and different styles of thrash and groove metal, and it does not let up. Troy Sanders especially makes his voice heard and felt here. The fury and speed in Filthy Vagabond and Dead Limbs is strong, but never full-out insanity or chaotic. There are speed changes that feel natural, and Reluctant Hero definitely sounds like a complete experience rather than a list of songs. The title track ending out the album is a big, dramatic, steep 6-minute closer that adds a big surprise moment for musicians knowing for getting loud. I went into Killer Be Killed fairly blind, and as far as supergroups and side projects go, you definitely get plenty to work with here, and this is a strong metal album in a year where metal was not at the forefront. It just wasn't. At a time where metal bands couldn't tour, I'm glad these gentlemen got together and were able to use their downtime wisely to create something special. There are also many metal bands that don't know how to execute many elements of thrash and groove off well in 2020. It's becoming a lost art. So getting something like Reluctant Hero at the end of 2020 was refreshing and comforting about the metal world. They easily could have phoned this in and capitalized on the name value involved or just the laurels of each individual's past works, and they didn't. They got together and made a great album with several different vocalists all contributed in positive ways. It instantly offers more than many other metal albums in 2020. Not sure if it would have made my year-end list if I had heard it on time, but maybe an honorable mention, and I can't deny that this is solid, and fans of Max or Mastodon or whatever should check this out. Overall, Reluctant Hero proves that supergroups can still deliver even in the strangest of times and that groove isn't completely dead. While many are waiting on the next Mastodon album or reminiscing about the Dillinger Escape Plan, I definitely recommend to those people to give Kill or Be Killed a shot because it will more than satisfy your heavy preferences. Up next, Money Money 2020 Part 2, We Told You So, the second album from The Network, which is virtually Green Day, but whatever, The Network. At the beginning of 2020, Green Day released Father of All, and to say the album was polarizing for even die-hard Green Day fans is an understatement. After the dust had settled from that, the alter ego of the band members forming The Network brought out their sophomore album, a continuation and updated for the time style entitled 2020 Part 2, We Told You So. The 25-song track list might look intimidating, but keep in mind most songs are very short, leading the album to only 54 minutes. While each member of the band takes turns at the vocals on different songs, this is not the pop-punk unit, but rather new wave with plenty of synth to spare. On top of that, just about every song really is a snarky look at the mess 2020 is, including flat earthers, Elon Musk, Ivanka Trump, and Nazis. Yep, unbridled chaos, just like 2020 was. As far as the sound goes, it works. The songs are extremely short at points, but everything still works well as there was a sense of tongue-in-cheek through the whole thing. Ivanka is a Nazi taking on the Trump family and who might be aligned with the Nazi regime, calling all the planets in the universe flat and flat Earth. Both totally different songs, but have just such a groove that you get lost in the madness instantly. The album does suffer from extremely short track times and many breaks between actual songs. I mean, 25 tracks is a bit overkill in itself. Honestly though, the great hooks and witty snark and all this from Anti-Mask Idiots to Threat Level Midnight, which is great by the way, is too fun to ignore. Will all Green Day fans love this? No, but it's meant to be something wildly different under a different name, and for all the beep boops you hear in an album like this, it feels like it's appropriate and you are along for the ride. Beginning of 2020, Green Day disappointed many fans. By the end of 2020, The Network delivered something so off the wall that it's hard to not smile when you're hearing it. It's not meant to be a deeply serious spectacle of an album with life-changing music, but somehow when you put the guys together with synthesizers and tell them to not go pop-punk, they end up making a better album than their most recent pop-punk album. Overall, The Network told us so and proved that obscure, satirical music about current events can still work after a year of obscure, life-changing events. It's a hard sales pitch to those who aren't aware of The Network's origins or even Green Day fans in general, but it's definitely worth hearing at least once to get a chuckle from the lyrics and to enjoy that 80s new wave cheese. Up next is The Boss, Bruce Springsteen's 20th studio album, Letter to You. One voice I think we can mostly agree to be happy to have heard this past year is Bruce's, and in a weird way, it gave a sense of reassurance that some of our favorite musicians and people in general are all in this together trying to make things work. Letter to You was an album that reminded us that even though things can drastically change, we can still rely on the familiar. At 12 songs across 58 minutes, The Boss proved again why he's a force to be reckoned with and can still make music everyone loves. The slower opening 1 minute you'll hear sets a tone, but there is so much passion in rock and folk, and you feel alive listening to this album the further it goes on. A song like Burnin' Train has more of a positive energy than 90s of what's on mainstream rock right now. I'm not going to say it's a front-to-back masterpiece, but Letter to You definitely scratched an itch from American and folk rock that has fallen by the wayside over the years. There are many standouts on Letter to You, like the almost 7 minutes long If I Was a Priest, with some great organ and piano work, and The Power of Prayer with a lot of soul influence in it along with a killer sax inclusion. When I said earlier that the music has fallen by the wayside over the years, I say that because I don't know of many recent acts that can execute the style this well while standing out as well as Bruce. Not saying they don't exist, but I'm saying The Boss still makes sure everyone knows how it's done. I was not expecting Bruce Springsteen to release an album this strong, this late in the game. Letter to You is his best in a decade. The E Street Band adds a ton as always, and Bruce is able to give a strong delivery without getting loud and forceful. Some people may not love the 6 or 7 minute run times, but The Boss makes just about everything work here. Overall, Letter to You is in several ways that unexpected letter you receive that really brightens your day and reminds you of reasons to be happy. In this specific case, it's that Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band are still wanting to put out a solid album filled with passion and memorable moments, once again proving no one beats The Boss. Up next is Lament, the latest album from post-hardcore band Touche Amore. Post-hardcore will always be dear to my heart ever since hearing At the Drive-In for the first time in my youth, and it blowing my mind. While Touche Amore is a completely different beast, the band's fifth full album, Lament, is another entry that will be hoisted up by many pop-punk fans over the past 20 years. At 11 songs across a quick 35 minutes, you get everything you would expect from Touche Amore in biting loud vocals over gorgeous melodies and bursts of energetic drums through the entire album. Seriously, the unleashed vocals from Jeremy Bolm are the standout feature on the album. Even in quiet valleys and tracks like the title track and A Broadcast, they still feel overwhelming, and that's the point. In my opinion, it's the faster tracks like Limelight featuring Manchester Orchestra and Reminders where the speed is carried by good drumming that puts this album up a notch and makes you wish there was more to it in length, which in fairness is a good sign of an album if it leaves you wanting more. When talking about post-hardcore albums, yeah, this is quite a clear screenshot of what most post-hardcore bands are trying to do, almost to a fault. The difference in bands like La Dispute and Touche Amore are that the music is played much stronger and more elegantly, with different inflections than just drum roll, chugga chugga group vocals in that order. I enjoyed Lament through its runtime, and not once did I feel like a song didn't belong here. I wouldn't put this on the level of 2019's Panorama from La Dispute, but this album was a loud, intense blast with plenty of groove and just enough variety and volume that made me appreciate what I was hearing. 35 minutes flies by extremely fast, but mostly in a good way. Overall, Lament is an album filled with expressive outbursts of emotion that doesn't take away from solid instrumental and percussion work. Touche Amore delivers something for post-hardcore fans that I don't think anyone can turn their nose at. For fans of that ultra-passionate, angst-filled energy, you'll be plenty satisfied with something like Lament. And finally, we have Song Machine Season 1 Strange Times, a mouthful of an album from Gorillaz. I have been a Gorillaz fan since hearing Clint Eastwood in my youth. Demon Days is one of my all-time favorite albums, and while since the mid-2000s I haven't loved everything Damon and company have done, I will never give up on Gorillaz. Song Machine Season 1 Strange Times is a big step up in reinvigoration and motivation, and the group came with a lot of help. This complete album was originally released song by song as episodes online with accompanying videos. A very Gorillaz thing to do. The first Song Machine collection is star-studded to say the least. The big standout tracks in my opinion are The Valley of the Pagans featuring Beck and Chalk Tablet Towers featuring St. Vincent. Both songs wildly different from each other, but the beauty of that is that this entire album is a collection with each song meant to be something unique. The alternative side of Gorillaz shines more with plenty of hip-hop and blessings from legends like Robert Smith and Elton John all contributing well. Not every song is an absolute smash, as there are some moments that drag on a bit too long, but even saying that seems like a stretch because there is so much music to get lost in the Song Machine. It may not be a masterpiece by any stretch, but this absolutely feels like a return to form for Gorillaz from the past few years. The many collaborations I think are exactly what the group needed, and I want the Song Machine project to continue on because the music on this, whether more alternative or hip-hop based, prove that there is plenty of potential for the music with many other great musicians. I really enjoy this collection, and I enjoyed the ride and how each song was presented online. The fantastic guest appearances far outweigh the mediocre ones, and the different flow through most songs reminds me of the Demon Days era, even if just barely. I want this style of inspired Gorillaz from now on, and if it takes a huge variety of special guests to make it happen from now on, fine with me. And I'll just be here hoping for Season 2. Overall, Song Machine Season 1 Strange Times makes me reappreciate the craft and skill from one of the best animated bands ever. Infectious bass, memorable lyrics and hooks, big names from different genres with the assist. There is a lot to take in, but these are strange times anyway, and I'll gladly take a unique entity of an album from a year like 2020 if it ends this nice. And that was a look at 6 albums I missed from the last quarter of 2020. What did you think of each album? Leave a comment and let everyone know. Big thanks to my patrons and a special thanks to Brandon Barenfeld, Chris Doman, McKenna White, and Dom Smith. You can have a say in upcoming videos and see videos early by supporting Rocked on Patreon. Please click the link in the video description for more info and to help the channel. Please subscribe and ring the bell to get notified on upcoming videos. You can check out my concert photography on Instagram, and you can keep up to date with Rocked on Facebook and Twitter.